Well, today officially marks President Trump's 100th day in office. The president plans to celebrate the milestone later today with a rally in Michigan. This, as new CBS News polling shows, many Americans are concerned about Trump's handling of the economy. Joining us now to break down Trump's first 100 days is Reeher, is a political science professor at Syracuse University's Maxwell School of Citizenship and Public Affairs. Good to have you with us.
It's good to be with you.
Hey, before we dive into some of the issues here, just quickly talk about why the first 100 days of a presidency are so crucial for an administration.
Well, this is one of the great paradoxes of this Trump administration. The reason why the first 100 days is normally so important is because a president comes in to office with the most political capital that he's ever going to have right at the beginning. There's goodwill from Congress to some degree, and there is goodwill from the public. And so usually they want to take advantage of that and capitalize on that and use it to get things through Congress. This administration, however, has come in during a very polarized time. So there's not a lot of extra goodwill that wasn't there during the campaign and the election. Nonetheless, his first 100 days have been more consequential, I think, than any other first 100 days we've seen since Franklin Roosevelt. So there's an irony there. It's not about the political capital, but he is starting in extremely active and extremely aggressively.
Well, one of the things that he did say on the campaign trail, he said, we are going to do more in the first 100 days than any other president in U.S. history, and he has lived up to that. Executive orders, first off, in the first 100 days, 142, far surpassing the record that Roosevelt set back in 1933 when he only had 92. So he's done that. The flip side of that, only 5 bills have been signed. And anyone knows EOs are great for the current administration, but a new administration comes in and they all get wiped away, similar to what Biden did after Trump's first term and similar to what Trump did after Biden's term. So I guess it's been very active. But again, even a lot of these EOs are tied up in courts, too. So it's really kind of hard to gauge the progress made on all of the executive orders.
Well, I'd push back on that a little bit in that if you look at the things that have already been happening, the things that have already been done, you're absolutely right. Some of them may be undone by the courts, and certainly future presidential administrations could reverse course. But it's the things that have been done have actually had impact and are going to have more impact down the road. And the difference between FDR and Trump in this regard is that Roosevelt could get things through Congress. One of the reasons why EOs have been so popular lately is because presidents have had trouble getting things through Congress due to the polarization. Yeah. That's why you saw Barack Obama use a lot. Biden used even more, and now Trump's using even more than Biden.
So let's talk about a big positive in a lot of the polling numbers. And I'm not just going to use CBS polling numbers. I'm going to use his home team, Fox News Channel polling numbers as well, doing very well on border security. Border security right now, according to U.S. Customs and Border Protection, 7,100 crossings this past month of March, the lowest in history. So I know the polling numbers on deportation not as high, but the polling numbers on the securing the border, something that he said he was going to run on. He has acted on that accordingly.
Yes, and you make a great point there. It's clear that one of the things that the public demonstrated during the election is they were not happy with the state of the border. They were not also happy with their experience of the economy. And so because they were unhappy with the border, I think you've seen a more positive response to some of the things that Trump has done there, even when those things are very aggressive and have run right up to, or depending on who you're talking to, skirted over the rule of law.
Now, the flip side of that, let's now talk about the economy, because that's the second largest, in some cases, the first biggest issue on most voters' minds during the election. And as we continue to see polling numbers, again, quoting someone on Fox News Channel yesterday, Karl Rove, saying from the economy standpoint, his numbers are in extremely bad shape. And again, using their polls, approval on the economy, 38% right now, 33% approval on inflation, 33% on tariffs. Now, again, uncertainty, I guess, would be one of the key words as you describe the first 100 days of this presidency as it relates to the economy and the markets. You've seen the markets go through these tailspins, trillions of dollars being eroded from not only corporate to personal wealth. Now, moving forward, what does the president need to do? I know tariffs are huge with the administration. It's not huge with the public, as the polls show.
Yeah, well, one of the things you've already seen is the administration has backed away on tariffs, and they've gone away from this massive all-out, all-country trade war. And so they've become much more selective. We've just seen an announcement that there's going to be some considerations for automobile manufacturers in the United States in terms of the tariffs that they're going to be subject to. And so going forward, I think the big thing is, and he will need Congress for this, he wants to get this thing that he's called the Big Beautiful Bill, which is the budget and the tax cut package together. That tax cut package was essential for his campaign promises, and I think the Republicans and President Trump are banking on that to undo some of the political damage that's happened through what's happened with the tariffs. And so I would be looking in the next 100 days for what kind of progress is being made on that bill. That's a must-do for President Trump.
And that is going to take some wrangling because obviously you've got one side that's like, there is no way we're doing this. And you've got the Republicans who say this is the best bill ever. So it's going to be, you talk about a battle between Republicans and Democrats. This is where the claws are really going to come out when it comes to trying to get this tax bill through. That's for sure. Just get last before I let you go, your thoughts on, I know obviously the initial bill that's presented is never the one that gets passed, but how much whittling down is going to need to be done with this for this to ever get clear?
Well, what I'm going to be most interested in is whether some of these additional tax cuts that Trump has been talking about will make it through. Eliminating the tax on Social Security would be a huge change policy-wise and would be very hard to undo in future administrations. Always tough to take away a tax cut. Looking at the taxes on tips, looking at the taxes on other kinds of wages in different industries. Those are things that I'll be watching. I expect the previous tax cuts from 2017 to make it through, perhaps some whittling away at the very top incomes, but that wouldn't surprise me. I'll be looking for other kinds of tax policy.
The tax on Social Security, tips, as you've mentioned, those actually make some real impact on the general population. It's at the very top. It's taking care of the 0.0001%. That's where I think they need to kind of probably scale back just a touch. All right, Grant, thanks. Always good to talk with you.
Yeah, it was good to be here. Thanks for having me on.
All right, you got it. Great to see you as always. And we'll see what happens over the next 100 days. For more on President Trump's first 100 days in office, head to CBSNewYork.com.